What's good, everybody? AB Media 83 here. And today we have another left versus vote blue no matter who. Only this time it's Brianna Joy Gray and Cenk Ugar of all people. So let's get this show on the road. Hope everybody's doing all right today. Let me go to share my screen. And before I do that, let's see. There we go. Oh, snap! Wrong screen, folks. Let me try this again. My bad. Not what I want. Let's see. Percent share screen. That's what I want. And here's what I want. All right, let's get this show on the road. And let me put some peripherals up here. Fair use. Fair use. I think that's what I want. Yep. And let's get this started. Let's see this little back and forth.
Are going to take over the country, and America is going to love it. I don't know if I'm going to love it, but apparently America will.
The book argues two main ideas. One, that progressives are correct on substantively these kind of policy issues. And two, America is actually a very progressive country. Millions of us know that we are part of something larger and that a movement is already transforming Washington. Cenk is here with us now to discuss. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
So this was part of the Bernie 2020 pitch, obviously, that there's a genuine populist movement that just needs to be tapped in.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, Cenk Ugar runs the Young Turks. They're a well-known so-called progressive group that's been around for quite some time, and it's been on the left for quite some time since the early 2000s. They've been on the air for quite some time, and they've pretty much sold out to the Democrat Party since then. But anyway,
in the United States, and there were many aspects of that campaign that seemed to validate that reality, the fact that he out-fundraised rather everybody else in the race, despite not taking any corporate PAC money or billionaire dollars. But at the end of the day, seemed unable to squeak one out, both in 2016 and 2020. So what do you say to folks who push back against the idea that progressivism is actually popular, given that we have not had very much success in the electoral realm?
Yeah. So a decent amount of the book is actually dedicated to that. First, chapter 1 explains that it's indisputable that the country is progressive on almost every issue. I say almost just because maybe
to answer your question, I've been coding on some of my own projects that I'm not ready to show yet, but I'm still working on it.
Couldn't find one, but every issue I looked at, the country's about 2/3 progressive. And so that might be shocking to people who are used to mainstream media, because why don't we win? Because of mainstream media. Mainstream media.
It's a little deeper than that. It's not just what I call joke news. It's not just them. It's not just them. It's a little deeper than that.
Creates a mythology that this is a center-right country, a conservative country. It creates a mythology that corruption is perfectly normal, that taking corporate bribes is normal. It's not normal. It's what most corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans do. It has greatly corrupted our system. And most importantly, it has corrupted our media. The reason why I say it's most important is because that is where the voters get their information. If they get the wrong information, there's no way in the world they can make the right decision. And corporate media, mainstream media, has been lying to them for decade after decade after decade.
While this is not a technical stream, I would also recommend you learn JavaScript as well. That'll help you kind of get once you compile it, study that JavaScript as well.
Once we get past that monster, then progressives will easily win, because the entire country, at least on economic issues, for sure, is progressive.
Yeah, I think, look, I think I have to admit, as someone who doesn't agree with a lot of what progressives have to offer in economics, although I'm sure we can find areas of agreement. Sure, the economic agenda being offered by the left is, I read polls too, regardless of what I think about it, is more.
Just for clarification, this gentleman right here is a libertarian, I believe. So just for a little context.
Certainly more popular than what I would describe as the kind of elite social and cultural values that are not necessarily attached to policies, but are very hugely alienating to so many normal Americans. The issues beloved by the elites. So how do progressives get through then, or stop allowing college professors to speak on their behalf, or the woke employees at institutions that want to cancel everyone, that sort of thing that gets associated with progressivism and gives the whole project a bad name?
That's actually somewhat true.
Yeah, so there's a couple of issues there, Robbie. Number one, corporate media, both, and when I say corporate media, that has the umbrella of what we consider mainstream media, like CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, NPR, et cetera, and right-wing media. They're both under corporate media. And so NPR might seem like an odd fit there, but it has the same exact groupthink as the rest of them do. And corporate media loves it when we engage in the culture wars. Go extreme left, go extreme right, tear each other to pieces, and don't look up, because the real people...
Oh, wait a minute. What you pretty much did for the last 15 years, Cenk, really? For the record here, folks, I used to watch the Young Turks. And trust and believe, Cenk Ugar spent a lot of time bashing Republicans. In fact, that's pretty much all they do right now. But anyway, excuse me, back to this.
In power are above you. It's not the immigrant that came in without a dollar in his pocket just across the border. He has no power at all. It isn't the LGBTQ person competing in sports in high school. That's not the issue in America, but it works brilliantly in tearing us apart. But the second part of it is a little...
Oh, you don't tear apart Republicans? Okay, Jake.
A little bit true, Robbie, which is that some portions of the left have totally fallen into that trap, in my opinion,
including you,
and are engaging in not only those culture wars, but only those culture wars.
Yeah, you're one to talk.
Brother, I need you to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we can fight back against the right wing on those social issues, and at the Young Turks, we aggressively do that. But at the same time, I need you to focus on what unites us economically. Otherwise, we'll never be able to beat the people up top.
I wanted to dig into that a little bit more. Recently, I'm sure you're aware, there was some controversy among the left because...
What's good, Snowman?
Podcast host and comedian Jimmy Dore recently made a sort of argument like this to Cornel West, arguing that he was overemphasizing resistance to white supremacy, at least in his rhetoric, if not in his campaign. And he was pushing him to focus more.
Now, just to give a little context here, for those of you who don't know, Jimmy Dore actually used to be with the Young Turks. But after the 2016 campaign with Hillary Clinton, they split off, and Jimmy Dore went in his own direction. Now, full disclosure, I watch Jimmy Dore from time to time, but given his recent interview with Dr. Cornel West, you should never forget this about Jimmy Dore. He's a white liberal. And it is what it is. Read between the lines.
Exclusively on economic issues. How do you see that trade-off? And do you think that there needs to be a kind of hierarchy of things like economics over racial or social issues, or in the case of the argument that Jimmy Dore was making, a focus on COVID and being anti-mandate, anti-moratorium over something like the fight against white supremacy?
Yeah. So this gets super nuanced. So let me walk through all of it as quickly as I can. First, the number one problem with Jimmy Dore's approach is he goes and mainly agrees with the right wing on social issues and then says, oh, like I'm not going to agree that the vaccine doesn't work. Sorry.
As you can see, Cenk still was a little salty about Jimmy Dore leaving him.
I'm not going to agree to things that aren't true. I'm not going to agree that the election was stolen. I'm not saying that Jimmy's saying that. I have lost track of what the crazy ramblings in his head or what he says out loud. But he keeps trying to bring the left over to the right wing. That's not how you do it. You say, look, it's not that you guys are moving your position or that we're moving our position. It's just that we're finding common ground in the places where we agree. Both of us can take yes for an answer, but you should not sheep herd your audience to the right wing. That is not at all productive. Now, in terms of hierarchies, like I said earlier, you don't need a hierarchy. Why do we have to debate and vote on, is this social issue more important or is this economic issue more important? It's not that hard to do both. It's not.
Oh, snap.
Not hard to do both. It's not. So when they pass laws against trans people, gay people, etc., in these states, when they pass a law saying we shouldn't teach real African American history in Florida, you could fight back against that. And at the same time, hey, Republicans, you know that 3/4 of you agree with us on paid family leave. We'll take yes for an answer. Come on, let's go do paid family leave together. Let's make sure that moms and dads have 12 weeks off after they deliver a baby. And so there's no reason.
Now, to be totally fair, I will address this. Yeah, this is a problem in the country. There are some jobs that will not give you paid leave for maternity leave. In other words, the wife got pregnant. Sometimes they won't even let the wife off. They'll make her work while she's pregnant, and that's one of the reasons why you need a mixture of capitalism and socialism, folks.
Reason in the world you can't do both. And what
pure capitalism is quite brutal. Don't believe me? Read The Empire of Cotton.
And once you get into hierarchies and prioritizing, that starts internal wars. Oh, you think class is more important than race? Oh, you think race is more important than class? And then all you're doing is fighting when you cannot win on economic issues unless you unite against the establishment. They're the ones that are actually in charge.
Speaking of sheep herding, there
be sure to like, share, and subscribe and support the channel.
Are some who are over the idea of working within the Democratic Party, who see the obstacles to actually winning as insurmountable after Bernie Sanders, who was better positioned than probably any candidate the left is going to have in generations, was thwarted the way he was thwarted by the Democratic Party. And now people are seeing the way the DNC is ostensibly rigging the election in various ways, not having
yes, they are.
Any debates, saying that they're.
Well, it's actually a little worse than that. They're not only not having any debates whatsoever. They're also switching around the primary for as long as I've been in politics. I was always gone first, and they're switching around to South Carolina because if you didn't follow 2020, Joe Biden did better in South Carolina, so they want that state to be first. Now, one of the problems with South Carolina going first is they have. You have to remember something. South Carolina is a Republican state. Translation: they have no chance in hell of winning that state in November of 2024. But they want that state to go first because it's particularly because Jim Crow Clyburn, everybody's favorite sharecropper, is in that state, and he's bootlicking for Biden.
There will be no primary, changing the order of the primary contest, et cetera, in a way that makes it very difficult for insurgent candidates like Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr. to advance in the polls. As a consequence of all of that, many people on the left are saying, I'm over participating in the Democratic Party entirely, are looking to
agreed
third-party campaigns like Dr. Cornel West's campaign, and see those who would want folks to participate in any kind of electoral contest within the Democratic Party as doing exactly that, as sheep herding, especially when some of the people who might encourage one to vote for a Democrat ultimately in 2020 or 2016 and probably in 2024 are going to say at the end of the day, you should vote to defeat Trump and vote for the Democrat, even if they don't reflect the progressive values that you've said, and I agree, are so popular. What do you make of that argument?
So I think that rationality dictates that you have to understand the distinction between primaries and general elections. So the establishment says you shouldn't have primaries, especially on the Democratic side. You should just bow your head. Whoever's in charge, they get to dictate who should be the leader.
Yeah.
And you progressives are rascals. You're so unruly. You must obey, right? If you listen to that, you're nuts.
And you're kissing their ass and telling us to go vote for them. So your point is what, Cenk?
That is them totally brainwashing you. There should be a massive primary against Joe Biden.
They brainwash your ass.
Poll out today, 72% of Americans think that he is not mentally capable of running again, that he's too old. 72%. And the lunatics in the...
Yep. He's not wrong about that. 72% of voters polled think Joe Biden is too old. I don't want to get this number wrong. I believe it's 57% of Democrats, not Republicans, not independents, but Democrats think Joe Biden is too old. But the Democrats want to shove Joe Biden down our throat. Can't make this shit up.
The Democratic Party and the lunatics in Washington go, yeah.
But my problem with Jake is he's gonna suggest we kiss the Democrat Party's ass anyway.
Yeah, we should go
and vote for them because Trump is coming.
The guy that 72% of the country doesn't think could be president against Donald Trump. They say this is the most important election of our lifetimes, but let's run an addled, wounded antelope against this demagogue fascist. How does that make sense? That doesn't make any sense at all. They're just, their lust and their greed for power is unbearable. So that's the primaries. And in the primaries, Marianne is at this point clearly the best candidate. It's not even close.
Jan, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of Mary Williams, and actually, this is something I will actually give Biden personally. If she ran against Biden if they had a real primary, Biden would probably beat her. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
but
can't defend
as
Marianne.
you see there's one thing I want.
Now, RFK is another story, which, and notice they're not mentioning RFK, but RFK is another story. It may have been might be a better challenge for Biden, but I don't. Even if they had a fair primary, I don't see Marianne beating Joe Biden.
I want to quickly correct, because in my opinion, I don't think the Democratic Party has much power at all. So they set the debates, they set this, they set that. I understand that, but they don't rig votes. They just set all the.
Really? After it's been proven that they screwed over Bernie twice, you gonna sit up here and say with a straight face that Democrats don't rig the primary? Okay, James.
Context. And I hate the rules that they set, and I think they're deeply corrupt. But that's not the number one problem. The number one problem is media.
Wait for it.
If Marianne Williamson got the same amount of respect and coverage in the media as Joe Biden did, Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy gets, then Marianne would be in a real contest with Joe Biden. But the media freezes her out, shames anyone who supports. Oh, she's not serious. Like, you morons are serious. You've ruined this country. But
you're gonna watch when 2024 comes around. We're gonna go vote for Biden because Donald Trump's on the other side.
But yes, when you get to a general election and somebody's sitting at 3% and the other two guys are sitting at 40%, well, brothers and sisters, I love you, but there is a reality that you are, in fact.
Translation, go vote for Joe Biden because we got to keep Trump out.
Taking a vote that would be against Donald Trump, and you're putting it in a category that is not going to win, and you all know that. I'm not saying today. I'm saying if you get to election day, and the polling still shows that, and don't give me this crap about, I don't believe in polling. I think 3% could magically turn into 51%. But if on that day you're...
Well, polling doesn't matter. A lot of people that vote Green Party, he's talking about Dr. Cornel West in his current polling. But what they don't want to talk about is Democrats like him assume that people that vote Green Party are just automatically going to vote Democrat because vote for the Green Party candidate, and so a lot of those people have come out and said, "No, we're just going to stay home because we don't like either candidate." And if you look at this 2016 numbers, a lot of people did. A lot of people voted for other candidates, but didn't vote for the presidency. A lot of people left the presidency empty, slot empty, and didn't vote for either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. But see, vote blue no matter who. Democrats like Jacob don't want to talk about that.
Candidate's definitely not going to win. Why would you help Trump? Why? Why would you help him?
Who cares? Just trading one racist for another. I actually, look, my gas was cheaper under Trump. My groceries were a hell of a lot cheaper under Trump. So, what's my incentive to vote for Biden again? Not to mention the fact that Biden said, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black." Well, my response to that is, I guess I ain't black then. Anyway.
Well,
It just makes no rational sense to me.
Let me ask you this, Cenk. Why would the Democratic Party ever stop? You don't want to characterize it as rigging. I will. Rigging the primary, disallowing a primary. Why would the media ever stop putting its finger on the scale the way that it does? If voters ultimately validate that behavior by continuing to vote blue no matter who, no matter how bad the Democratic Party gets, and no matter how corrupt the DNC is, when does it stop?
Yeah, it stops when we win the goddamn primary. And by the way, that's impossible. No, it's not. Bernie came this close in 2016, and he came this close in 2020.
How is it going to? Okay, win the primary. You say that as if Hillary Clinton didn't cheat to win in 2016, and you say that as if Barack Obama didn't call all the corporate candidates to drop out and support Joe Biden. That didn't happen in 2020. So, are we supposed to win a rigged primary in favor of the establishment? Okay.
He won the first 3 states, and who stopped him? Was it the Democratic Party that stopped him?
Yes.
No, it was corporate media.
Yes, it was the Democrat Party that stopped him both times, along with corporate media's help.
Then he tons of negative coverage on Bernie. Can we get past corporate media? Of course we can.
You don't
I
think
know
it was
it's
the
super hard,
Democratic
and that's their wall that's meant to keep us out, right? But look at
No, he doesn't think. He has $20 million. 20 million reasons not to think it was the Democrat Party. Oops, did I say that out loud?
us. You're doing it on Rising. We're doing it on Young Turks. And all of us are getting past it by having these conversations and having it reach the American people. Can a progressive win a primary? Absolutely. But we need to have progressive.
Yeah, if he kisses enough ass and gets enough corporate backing, yeah, he can win. Progressive can win the primary.
Progressives who
look at AOC.
Try and who bring us together on economic issues like Bernie did in 2016. And then I guarantee you victory. That's also what the book is about. I guarantee you victory in 2028.
Cenk, you don't think that the Democratic Party played a role in Obama calling the leading candidates, including Pete Buttigieg, who at that point had done better than Joe Biden, and asked him to drop out after the South Carolina win? You don't think that that's evidence that the Democratic Party is willing to do whatever it takes to consolidate around a non-progressive candidate?
Brianna, I don't disagree with you 1%. That's not what I'm saying. I know Obama did that. I know that the so-called moderate Democrats, who are actually corporate Democrats, coalesced. By the way, Elizabeth Warren has done many great things in her career. You cannot wipe that away. But her not coalescing with Bernie, both in 2016 and critically in 2020, cannot be forgiven. It was just when they coalesce, we have to coalesce. Anyways, but Brianna, what I'm saying is that was not the critical factor. Obama can get all of the corrupt Democrats together and all the corporatists together, and they can go, whoa. But if the media doesn't then smear Bernie and doesn't elevate Biden, it doesn't work. It's the media that's the critical part.
Democrats didn't smear Bernie Sanders? Okay, Jake.
Democrats try to rig elections, but if the media didn't play along, that plot would not have worked at all. Bernie would have won the 4th primary.
For the record, Bernie Sanders has already bent the knee for the Democrat Party, so screw him. I'm still not voting for Joe Biden.
Primary state, and it would have been over. We were so close. My problem with progressives in Congress is we got near the goal line, and now they're going backwards. And they're going, oh, corporate Democrats, we bow our heads. We all endorse Joe Biden. Are you nuts? What are you endorsing Joe Biden for? He's a terrible candidate. He's a weak candidate. He's going to lose. He's not very progressive.
But you're going to say vote for him anyway. So why does any of that matter to you? You say, we didn't go vote for him anyway because Donald Trump.
And you endorse him without getting anything in return? Don't you know even elementary politics? Use your leverage, for Christ's sake. Guys, you've got to trust me on the numbers. We're going to win these primaries. And
yeah, you're going to win a rigged primary. Okay, Jake.
And mainstream media gets weaker by the day, and we get stronger by the day. Those primaries are ours. It's just like even today, why don't we have a more forceful primary against Biden? Because while the media whines and complains about Biden, the minute that anybody steps in the race, they go, how dare you put your head to the leader? If you're a Democrat and you're a progressive, are you nuts listening to corporate media?
You're one to talk.
No, do not ever listen to corporate media. Their job is to lull you back into sleep and make sure that you love the status quo.
Oh, like you do?
And that you obey corporate rule. Do not do that. Go and fight in the primaries. It is not at all too late. Look, if these are the only choices we have, voting for Marianne Williamson in the primary is the biggest no-brainer a progressive should ever have. There's no reason in the world to vote for Biden. She's both a stronger candidate and a more correct candidate.
Jake, let me ask you this before we go, and I'm sure you get into some of this in your book. You know, I think you're so correct to rail against the mainstream media, the corporate media, and the choices that they make. And obviously we're part of a corporation, so I guess I can't say we're not corporate media, but we try to platform and celebrate alternative narratives like your own. Let me ask you this, because you went after Jimmy Dore a little bit a minute ago. I've noticed that in a lot of these independent and alternative media spaces, voices we've featured on the show before, people who got big by having very pro Bernie Sanders audiences and messages, have had, if not a right-wing drift, I'm not sure that's in the direction of progressivism, or it's not in the direction of normal Bidenism either. It's in a direction, I think, of being more open to the right, people whose audiences, I think, have that perspective, like Glenn Greenwald's audience, Russell Brand's audience. We're going to be talking about Russell Brand later today for anyone, watching this right now.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about why black men are going in that direction. Look, after we get done with this clip,
that kind of thing. How does that square with your thesis on the inevitable takeover of progressivism?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. Number one, people are getting so frustrated with the Democratic Party because they almost never deliver that they're looking for alternatives.
No shit, Sherlock. Are you still helping them?
Alternatives. I mean, look, as a meta issue, that's why Trump won in 2016 in the first place. And
Biden barely won in 2020.
The country is so deeply anti-establishment, except no one on TV will ever tell you that, because they are the establishment. They're not going to come on TV and go, hey, by the way, country, I'm going to end the gaslighting here. It turns out you guys all hate us. They're not going to say that, okay? So that is the absolute reality here. So...
and that's true. We don't like mainstream media. I don't listen to CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News.
But when you get into the Jimmys of the world, there's audience capture and there's financial interest, and then some have just lost their minds, in my opinion. Okay, and so, for example, Jimmy does a video that's pro-vaccine. It doesn't get a lot of views. He does one that's vaccine skeptical. It gets a lot of views. Guess what he does next? 20 more videos that are vaccine skeptical. That's called audience capture.
Like you, as you can see, he's still butthurt about Jim Dore. But anyway,
and you partly do it for the ego, and you partly do it for the money, and it takes strength not to go in that direction. And the right wing is going and capturing these hosts one by one, and everybody has their different things. Look, I don't know Russell Brand and Glenn Greenwald's situation, but I do know that sometimes if some people have done terrible things, where are you going to go? You're not going to go to the left, where they're going to out you and they're not going to support you. You're going to go to the right, where they circle the wagons and they say you can do anything you want as long as you agree with us.
Cenk, I have to offer some, I think, pushback there. One on two fronts. One, I do think that you're accurately describing a psychological phenomenon where if people are getting a lot of criticism and pushback, some of which they perceive to be bad faith, there is an inclination to spend more time with people who have been nicer. I'm not saying that's a moral choice, but it is an obvious psychological outcome. And does that mean that people within the left community should perhaps extend more grace to each other so that that doesn't actually happen? And the second, I would just want to ask you about, similar accusations, I feel I would be remiss not to bring up, that have been made about your network, Young Turks, about the $20 million of Katzenberg money that some people have argued changed the direction of TYT's coverage in a more liberal and less left direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. For those you don't know, Young Turks got about around $20 million around 2016, and they've been pro-corporate Democrat ever since.
Okay, so I'll take it one at a time. Should people show each other more grace on the left? Absolutely. At the same time, you notice a phenomenon. It's okay to point it out. So it's okay for us to point out what Jimmy does with his videos is super obvious. It's one thing to criticize the Democratic Party. As you can tell from this interview, I do it very regularly and very forcefully. It's another thing to say the Republicans are okay. The Republicans are not okay. The Republicans are a disaster. The Republicans are much worse.
See what I mean? But the Republicans, I need to make that a meme. But the Republicans, whenever Democrats are full of shit, you call them on it. What's usually the first response? But the Republicans
worse than the Democrats. Okay, now on to the second issue. Yeah, so then people go and look around and they go, okay, well, the Young Turks got 20 million investment. Okay, now here's the things people don't know. People say Katzenberg was involved, no question. The amount he has is near microscopic. And by the way, we pay the money back. So I be honest, that's breaking news. We've never told anyone that, but we did. So
okay, whatever.
That has no influence on us. But most importantly, Brianna, people
what's that two-letter word BGS likes to use all the time? Bullshit.
Just make up that we went towards the right way or went towards the moderate Democrats. I mean, they call me like those the lunatic fringe that follow Jimmy say we're establishment shills. They haven't watched 1 minute of the show. I mean, look at what the things I said to you before this question, right? Does it look like a 1% pro-establishment? But they will see that and go, aha, nail it, he's for Hillary Clinton. Well, look, I can't help you if you're not dealing with facts and logic. You can't show anything where we're in favor of Hillary Clinton.
Well,
no one fights harder in the primaries against corporate Democrats than TYT does, Young Turks does, and I do. I formed the Justice Democrats to fight against corporate Democrats, and we defeated them. There's nothing more practical and more real than what I did there in that instance.
I mean, Cenk, I think specifically one of the moments that I remember of TYT being characterized as no longer capturing the spirit of the Justice Democrats or what the Justice Democrats were supposed.
Oh, by the way, the Justice Democrats kicked Cenk out. They also kicked Kyle Kulinski out too.
Supposed to do was the moment around Force the Vote, where there was a push for the elected squad members to take an adversarial relationship to the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi specifically, to withhold their votes for them the same way that we've now seen the Freedom Caucus model with withholding their votes for Kevin McCarthy at the beginning of this year, really testing the theory of how that would work and getting in return a number of concessions that I think we can all acknowledge would be amazing for the left to have achieved. And at that time, despite there being a poll that TYT put out of its audience, where a majority of the TYT audience seemed to support Force the Vote, the newscasters, the personalities on the show were very much against it. And as I'm sure you can remember, that caused a significant rift down the left that persists in many ways. What do you say to that? I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, it's crazy. But thank you for bringing it up, because I'm happy to address it and try to clarify it the best I can. Guys, do I look like I don't want to force votes? Of course I do, right? And I tell every congressman.
Yeah, he wants to bully everybody to vote for the Democrat Party, no matter how shitty they are.
Person that's going into Congress for the first time, if they'll listen to me, I tell them, you have to create what the civil rights movement called good trouble. Now, that doesn't mean you go in wildly.
Lord have mercy. He's quoting Joe Lewis, y'all, the Democratic puppet for civil rights. Good trouble, good trouble. May he rest in peace.
And flailing around doing impractical things. But it means you come up with a coordinated strategy, you then create good trouble, and then you put a spotlight on an issue where you are
good trouble
on the winning end of it, popularity wise. So, for example, one of the things we did with Justice Democrats is as soon as AOC won, we did a sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office. That put Green New Deal on the map. That put Sunrise Movement on the map. And in a lot of ways, it reinforced Justice Democrats being on the map.
And Nancy Pelosi still became speaker and didn't do shit about it.
Want you to take those kind of actions. But you have to actually use your mind and independent judgment as to which action to take. So force a vote. Jimmy comes to me. Back then, we're still friends and allies. And I go, oh, look, it sounds like a pretty good idea. Okay, I definitely want to do something where we're forcing action, right? So what's your plan, Jimmy? He's like, well, we're going to force a vote and we're going to, get Medicare for all. I'm like, brother, I want Medicare for all. But you have to take steps. You have to take steps. If you go straight to Medicare for all, you have a 0% chance of it passing, and you're going to waste the power and the leverage.
In other words, it's not time for that yet. We need to wait. You know that's what they told black folks back in the 60s, right? We need to wait. You just need to wait.
Who are you going to get as Speaker of the House? And he's
that
like,
wasn't the argument.
I don't know. That's your strategy? No, I'm not going to agree with a moron who has no strategy, no plan, not at all practical. We could have forced a vote on $15 minimum wage, and we could have won that vote. But
really? Democrats can't. What did they say? What was their excuse last year? We're doing 2001. Oh yeah, their excuse was the Congressional Budget Office said we can't raise the minimum wage. Let me explain something to y'all. The minimum wage is currently $7 and I believe $7.25 an hour. I don't call it the minimum wage. I call it the joke wage. But when Democrats had the majority, when Biden first got elected, they had a majority in the House and they had a majority in the Senate. Their excuse was the Congressional Budget Office says we can't pass it, so we're just gonna leave it. We can't do anything. Aww. We need 60 votes. That's the excuse I keep fucking hearing. We need 60 votes. We need 60 votes. Here's my problem with that statement. You motherfuckers act like I can't do math. You have 100 senators. Let's do a little math here. Let's do a little math experiment here, folks. You have 100 senators in the United States. 100. A simple majority is not 60 votes. It's well over 60 votes. A simple majority is actually 51 votes. And you don't even need 51 senators. You can have Kamala Harris come in and be that 51st vote. The only reason we're talking about 60 votes here is because Democrats made a stupid ass rules that anything important has to have 60 votes. Now, anything important, we must have at least 60 votes. Now, Democrats don't have 60 senators, and Republicans can filibuster at any time and kill any legislation, even if it has overwhelming majority. Even if they have like 54 or 55 votes, now legislation can still fail because we have a stupid ass rule called a filibuster. Now, do you always need 60 votes? No. The last tax cut that Trump passed, Republicans only had 51 votes. You didn't hear anything about, did you say they went to their votes like, we need 60 votes. We need 60 votes, otherwise we can't get it done. It costs 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes. I'm so fucking sick of hearing that bullshit!
But instead, the force of vote were like, yeah, well, you didn't do what I wanted. Okay, then I'm out. I'm not going to help you guys actually get the bills that
go fuck yourself. We're not going to help you.
We all want. Oh, come on, man, grow up.
No, so
you first, motherfucker.
Cenk, I would point out that Kevin McCarthy is still Speaker of the House. The issue was not whether or not Nancy Pelosi would necessarily become Speaker. The left, people
Brianna,
like yourself. Wait a minute.
Who is going to replace Nancy Pelosi?
Cenk,
Did you guys have a candidate? Who?
Cenk, if I could, the right-wing caucus got a number of meaningful concessions, regardless
but that's
of.
Not-
Yep.
Concessions I would have been in. They said we're going to get Medicare for all.
Cenk.
That's true. Brianna's not wrong about that. See, when the Republicans took the House in 2022, they forced Speaker McCarthy to give them concessions. Did the Democrats do that? Oh no, follow what did Democrats tell the progressives do? Oh, fall in line and kiss Nancy Pelosi's ass. If they win the House in 2024, they're still gonna tell the kids Nancy Pelosi ass and Hakeem Jeffries ass too. But anyway. Keep playing.
With all due respect, your characterization of what happened, I think, is reflective of the lack of grace and communication that was happening among the left at the time. And I think if people had been less motivated by their personal animosities against each other, it seemed that Jimmy Dore, you've expressed some animosity toward him several times during our short conversation here. I do think if those personal animosities weren't at play, maybe we could have been in a world where you were listening to myself, Crystal Ball, Kyle Kulinski, other figures on the Cornel West, Chris Hedges, who were also advocating for this and who were being very clear that there were any number of demands. I wrote an article in Current Affairs that set all of this out contemporaneously, so you can go back and look, that it wasn't this idea that we were going to hold the vote and magically get Medicare for all. And to the extent that that was your presumption and your belief, I do think that is a real problem with communication on the left.
That you guys wanted at the time. Name one other concession. At the time, don't make it up now. At the time, name one other thing you guys want.
I invite you and the rest of the audience to go look at an article I wrote in the Current Affairs magazine in November of 2020, in which I consulted.
Now, shout out to Brianna Joy Gray. Unlike Cenk Ugar, when for those of you who don't know, Brianna Joy Gray ran Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2020. When Bernie didn't win, Brianna Joy Gray refused to vote for Joe Biden. Cenk Ugar kissed the Democrat Party's ass and told his viewers to go vote for Joe Biden.
With David Sirota and included a list of subsequent ancillary demands that he had written up in his own publication. And I linked to them and say that these are also important. The important thing is that we need to demand something in exchange for our votes. But we don't need to rehash that. Go ahead. I'll give you the last.
No, I need to say one last thing, Brianna. I need to say one last thing. You guys make it sound like we're the ones who have animus. No.
Yeah.
Oh, be clear about how this thing started. As I told you in the beginning, I said, well, that's interesting. Let's have a conversation about strategy. And the minute I said, let's have a conversation about strategy, Jimmy said that we...
Look, one of the reasons I'm pissed off, this is coming from the motherfucker who cried and bitched for years. The Democrats for a week. They don't fight for anything. Now he's helping the Democrats not fight for anything. Now he's helping the Democrat make excuses why they can't get anything done. By the way, the Democrats have a majority in the House now. But what's their excuse? Oh, what's that excuse they like to use again? Oh, we need 60 votes. They can change the fucking rules anytime the times they wish, but oh, we need 60 votes. You have 100 senators. 51 is a simple majority. Majority rules in this country. They're pulling your fucking leg. They had to come up with a fucking excuse not to give you a raise on the minimum wage because they didn't have one. Oh, not to mention, what's their other excuse? Oh yeah, Joe Manchin and what's that heifer's name? Christine Similar. Oh, they didn't want to come with us, but they didn't want to vote for us. Oh, 1 second.
We were taking money from the CIA and Nancy Pelosi. You just mentioned David Sirota. He also attacked David Sirota. He also attacked Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! and insinuated she was working with the CIA. So then I thought, well, no, I'm not going to work with a lunatic who thinks that Amy Goodman might be working with the CIA. And second of all, I didn't start the fight. This lunatic comes in frothing at the mouth. I'm being funded by CIA and Nancy Pelosi. How are you supposed to have a rational conversation with an absolute lunatic like that? And then you guys think we started it? Are you
Yeah, you did.
insane?
I didn't say you started it. I don't care about the personalities. Cenk, you're talking about personalities. I'm talking about issues. All I know is that David Sirota supported Force the Vote. I had him on my podcast talking about it many times.
That's not
yes,
true.
He did.
No,
and he
didn't.
continues to be an advocate that I value and respect a great deal. And he is able, as a mature person, to tease away his personal feelings about human beings that he might share an idea with or a strategy with, and the underlying strategy. And I really do hope that we see more of that on the left and less of a focus on who it is that's delivering a certain kind of a message, especially if you're right, Cenk, and it's going to require a united and powerful independent media force in order to actually ever get a progressive into office. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking through some of these tough issues.
No problem. And you guys are funded by the CIA. But I'm sure you won't take
Really, Cenk?
offense at that. So but just be cool. Be cool. Let's agree on policies. But you're obviously, Brianna had bought her house, has a Mercedes.
She also has some student debt, so.
And a Rolls Royce, all funded by Hillary Clinton and the CIA. But it's cool. It's cool. Let's stay friends.
About the only thing Brianna has convinced me of on this show is that there is, in fact, more dysfunction on the left than on the right. And today is a good example of that. Thank you very much, Cenk.
That, unfortunately, is true.
Yeah, I can't let that go. I can't let that slide. There's probably just as much dysfunction on the right.
Have a good one.
All right. Before we get to the next video, all right, before we get to that next video, we just wanted to talk here for a minute. The first part, that first video we saw was the vote blue no matter on the left versus vote blue no matter who section. Now let's talk about why Democrats are starting to lose black men. And now I could go on a spiel why I think Democrats are starting to lose the black male vote, but I think it would be better if Sister Yvette Carnell, who is LGBT and a feminist, do it for me. This is a staunch lefty. Listen to her commentary on this.
So if you know that the game is to blame black men, right? And the game, so if you know that the game is to blame black men, right? And the game is to divide, and like we have all these little underbellies of people who play into these gender wars. They're all over the interwebs playing into these gender wars. They're all knuckleheads. But if you know that the end game is to kind of blame ADOS men, especially for whatever the violence may be, then that tweet is irresponsible. Regardless of what you said to Jared Ball, that becomes an irresponsible tweet. But she said something else too that really kind of, she put up another tweet that really kind of made me think, because then she brought up Steve Bannon. And the person that she tweeted was basically saying, I get what she was saying because I get Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon was basically in their interpretation. So you can look up the tweet. I'll leave it alone. You look it up. In their interpretation, Steve Bannon was saying black people or black men specifically need somebody to look down on. If you can, support is conditional on you doing something else. So and she brought up trans people and said now we're getting black women to look down on trans people and engage in transphobia. And I'm just like, what is she talking about? Like that's not what's happening at all now. And even if you say that's what happens, you have to then go back to the Democratic Party and say, don't they do that with black women? So if Republicans are playing a game with black men, and I believe they are currying favor and they are trying to play a game. If they're playing a game with black men, aren't Democrats playing the same game with black women? And don't we have to offer the same critical lens for both groups of people?
Pretty much, yeah.
Why or why not, ma'am? Because here's what, just to give you all some context in terms of Bannon, he said a couple things, and I just want to give the proper political context in terms of what he said. So he said the Democrats, the Democratic Progressive Party cannot rule if they don't get 90% of the black vote. If we cut into the black vote, if we make it 80-20, we can win 100 congressional seats this time, Bannon said.
Pretty much. Oh, but we're only 13% of the population, right?
So he's saying that, like, listen, there is an opportunity to peel away these voters, especially black men.
This is why I have said for years the Democrats have a male problem, and trust to believe it's not just black men they have a problem with. Democrats have a male problem.
And this is something he said a while ago. This was in a tweet. African American males are also another central part of our, this is Bannon, of our coalition. And you wait, we're going to get 50%. We're going to get 50% of that vote in 2022. And once we do that, we can govern for 100 years. Right? So he has a play for the he understands and it's perfect political thinking. If the Democrats are playing for black women,
which they are, yeah, don't kid yourself. Democrats are playing for the black woman vote. They don't give a shit about the black man vote. They don't give a shit about my vote.
If you are the Republican Party, your play is.
Oh well, I'm sorry. Vote blue no matter who wants to. I'm sorry. They want to shame me into vote for them, but I kick rocks.
For black men or ADOS men, whoever. That's a politics. That's a play. That's what you would do. There's nothing nefarious about that, except that neither party is trying to offer us anything worth anything. That's the most nefarious thing, not the fact that, oh my God, these Republicans trying to steal.
True. Only thing Democrats are really offering black women are symbolism. Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I try to take away black men. But one thing that nobody or none of these people who keep talking seem to understand.
This is a black LGBT feminist saying this shit.
Right? One thing that they don't kind of seem to understand is what ADOS men in this country are doing in terms of their support for Republicans. Now, I agree with one thing. We are way too reflexive. It's either Democrat or Republican, and we jump out of hot pans and into frying pans and into hot pans and out of frying pans and into pan. Hey, it's hot over there. I'm gonna jump out of fish grease into chicken grease. Well, I just don't know how that's gonna work out for you, Hotfoot. I just don't. So we are very reactionary.
Yeah, sometimes I agree with her. Sometimes I'll give you an example. In 2020, 2022, I didn't vote at all. I stayed home. If you don't like that, kick rocks. My ancestors didn't die for Boulain members to buck dance for Hillary Clinton. Oops, did I say that out loud?
Or in terms of how we do things. That's a problem because sometimes you have to build a third way. Sometimes you can't be reactionary. Right? So, if you can't be reactionary, you have to find a third way. So I get all that. But nobody is thinking about why. Because that's the question that you have to have. why are if we would agree now, I would want to take out. I would like to see a study, and it is funny. Antonio and I talked about this. I would like to see a study of how many. I want to break out different groups. Like let's break out Nigerian Americans. Let's break out Haitians. Let's break out Haitian Americans, who especially the ones who just got here. First, we should break it out first generation. Second, let's break out a lot of these people and see how they vote as opposed to ADOS people. But even if we just talk about ADOS men, what we have to talk about is what they are doing in reaction to a political system that they don't view as serving them.
Yep, the political system doesn't serve black men whatsoever.
This is not about anything else other than why aren't you wondering, instead of saying, and instead of putting up that tweet, and I find that tweet offensive because you cannot, if you cannot compare a group of men who are incarcerated at the highest level of any other group in the world and say then that we're the police. No, they are not. Like, how can you say, well, black men is the police? You can't say black people are the police, but you certainly can't say man or woman, but you certainly can't say, looking at the incarceration rate of ADOS men, that they are the police. They are policed. They are not the police. And you can play with that group because the group has no power. And instead of interrogating what being powerless in America means and what kind of political reaction you would have with being that powerless in America, nobody's currying favor to them. At least Democrats are talking about black girl magic. They got everybody walking around with Kamala. They are at least playing to your ego, even though they don't give you policies. They are not playing to ADOS men at all, except the
Yep. Except the shame set to send out Tiffany Cross like, vote line and vote Democrat. Yeah. Didn't work for Stacey Abrams. Oh well, not my problem.
Are them stupid and say that you don't need anything and say that you.
Oh yeah, that's what vote blue no matter who does. Y'all misinformed. You're misinformed. They're so misinformed. They're so misinformed.
You just don't know enough of how to vote or whatever. Right? It's just very dismissive, and that kind of dismissiveness in party politics, in terms of policy and in terms of rhetoric, has a consequence. But nobody wants to talk about that part. And let me just bring up another part. How in the world do you nominate Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee for president, given what he did in terms of mass incarceration and who mass incarceration impacted the most, which was ADOS men, and then say, why are you thinking about voting Republican? You took the man who did the worst to this group of people.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. She's absolutely right. And that's why my vote didn't go to Joe Biden. I guess I ain't black, right?
You decided not only we're not going to punish him, but we are going to nominate him, and you doggone well better vote for him. You cannot do that.
Yeah, my answer is still, and my answer to you to vote for Joe Biden, my answer is still go fuck yourself.
As a political party or as a group of people, and then wonder why this group of men is not feeling you. That's part of the reason so many of them fall. So many of them fall to people like Tariq Nasheed and the underbelly of YouTube, because they don't feel like anybody speaks for them. So they find the biggest knucklehead in the world sometimes. Not all the time. We know most men aren't watching this because we know how many million ADOS men there are in America, and we know what the views are on these shows. But what I'm saying is,
yeah, Yvette, yeah, that was a shot at the black manosphere. But yeah, Yvette, but we're clearly having an effect, and you just don't want to admit it. But anyway,
everybody's gonna go find a champion. I'm just telling you, people are gonna go find their champion. It'd be the wrong champion, but you have to ask yourself, what did you do? What did you do? How did we get here? Now, I want to bring up something else, because this is important. I want to go back to, I don't want to do, we do a lot of recent studies, and I appreciate that. But I think sometimes what happens is that we forget the past. Like nobody, people say stuff like nobody could anticipate what happened to the ADOS men, and nobody could anticipate what they was going through. And nobody could anticipate what was going to happen with mass incarceration. Joe didn't know. Nobody knew.
Bullshit.
So let me bring up, this is just, I'm going to bring up another part in a second, but I just want to bring this up really quick, because I hate that argument. We got nobody know. Mass imprisonment. Now, this is like 2004, this study, right? Mass imprisonment and the life course, race and inequality in the U.S., in the U.S. incarceration, in U.S. incarceration. Now, this is just the abstract, and I'm going to go to another little quote real quick. Although growth in the U.S. prison population over the past 25 years has been widely discussed, few studies examine changes in inequality in imprisonment. We studied penal inequality by estimating lifetime risks of imprisonment for Black and white men at different levels. Don't y'all miss that? Well, you could find a study sometimes just had Black and white. It didn't have everybody else. That people need. Nobody said need to say Black and brown. Nobody needs to say Black and Latino. Nobody needs to say none of that.
Yeah, that's true, to be fair.
I mean, we could just talk about. I mean, it really is something. It really is something. Combining administrative survey and census data, we estimate that among men born between 1965 and 1969, 3% of, now understand, don't rush past this date. 1965 and 1969. Now, this was in 2004. This is a study from 2004. We estimate that among men born between 1965 and 1969,
just for context, that was almost 20 years ago. Damn.
3% of whites and 20% of Blacks had served time in prison by their early 30s. The risks of incarceration are highly stratified by education. Among Black men born during this period, 30% of those without college education and nearly 60% of high school dropouts went to prison by 1999. 60%. Let me read that one more time because y'all didn't hear me. Among Black men born during this period, 30% of those without college education and nearly 60% of high school dropouts went to prison by 1999. So you're seeing a majority of Black high school dropouts go to prison. Those are majority ADOS men. That's who you see getting locked up.
Yep. 60% of people who dropped out of high school. And by the way, there are plenty of reasons to drop out of high school. It's not always because they were Pookie and Ray Ray either. 60% of them ended up in prison. But you wondering why we don't want to give the Democrats our vote.
60% of the high school dropouts get locked up. That's 1999. Tell me who didn't know. They absolutely knew. They put this thing on roller skates. They threw gasoline on the fire. The novel pervasiveness of prison indicates the emergence of incarceration as a new stage in life, in the life course of young, low-skilled Black men. So what they're saying to you is that this has become part of the life stage. This is one of the life stages that ADOS men go through. Now, it is expected. Low-skilled ADOS men, it is expected. And you know what they did in terms of immigration? Not only did they say, well, we're going to put you in jail, and it's expected, and if you low-skilled, 60%, if you a high school dropout, 60% of y'all going to jail, we're going to import, when you talk about immigration, we're going to import people in here are going to be competition. That's going to make your opportunity dwindle even more because you already got a record, baby. So we put you in jail, right? And then we're going to import some low-skilled workers to compete with you. So what do you think your outcomes look like?
Yep, and oh, by the way, notice something. Donald Trump was trying to kick these immigrants out. Joe Biden is importing them in by the thousands. New York City and Chicago are getting thousands of immigrants per month to compete with your asses. But y'all wonder why we don't want to vote for Joe Biden. Really?
I'm just asking. This is an old study, 2004, and they're talking about by 1999. This is an old study. Everybody knew. Stop telling me somebody did. They did. Well, I don't know. Could have been. No, they knew what the outcomes were, and nobody. And the thing is, nobody cared. Like nobody's heart was broken for Black men. People did not give.
Yeah, unfortunately, right now we're the permanent underclass, and nobody gives a shit. As BGS said, we're the disposable underclass. And it's very unfortunate.
No care. I'm sure their mamas cried in the courtroom and all kind of stuff. But I'm talking about as a community, we did not care. This incarceration rate proves we as a country and as a community do not care about ADOS men.
But you want to shame us to go vote for Joe Biden, who signed the 94 crime bill in the first place.
And so if you're going to talk to me,
and I don't want to hear about Trump wrote an article. And I don't agree with what Trump said in that article about those 5 young men who were wrongfully accused of essaying that woman. I don't agree with Trump on that. But you act like that compares to Joe Biden signing a 94 crime bill that destroyed the black family, that utterly destroyed the black family.
Me about ADOS men being the white people or being the white, or why they gonna be the Trump. Talk to me about why you and why we as a community never cared about them. Listen, we don't even talk about what community means. We talk about the black community. I saw a tweet the other day. A woman saying the brick incident showed me that we don't really have a community. The brick incident showed you, and when a woman got hit in the face with the brick, and mass incarceration didn't show you that we don't have a community. You didn't show up for a whole set of men who were warehoused in cages, and you want to talk about one lady with the brick? And I'm sorry, I don't believe y'all believe shit nobody with a brick. I don't want to get hit with a brick. I don't want to see nobody do it. You should not. I'm against these kinds of violent incidents. But what I
agreed, and for the record, the brick lady made that shit up. But anyway,
I'm saying is that nobody's talking about what community looks like. And nobody's talking about what it means to be in community with somebody. So you wait a minute, you don't show up for all. You got all these ADOS men who got in jail for weed, all this stuff wasn't rape and just running around shooting people. That's not all you.
Yeah, most black men are locked up for drug offenses. That's a well-known fact.
People are in jail. People got locked up for non-violent stuff. People got locked up. People were innocent and got locked up. We see
that's true. If you look at the Innocence Project, a lot of the people being let out are black men based on DNA evidence or other kind of evidence.
We're seeing a lot of those exonerations now. You didn't care. You didn't care about that, but you want somebody to shout to the rooftops about the brick incident.
By the way, black men still ain't got an apology for that brick incident either.
You want to talk about when even people talk about marriage and couples getting together, and women, I can't find no man. I can tell you what cell block he's on. What it's just being in community. And I said this during Dr. Kaz when I was a doctor at St. Stephen's. Like, you being in community is supposed to mean something. It means we show up for each other. It doesn't mean you show up when you want this guy or this man to show up and put his body in the way of whatever danger is coming your way, but you don't want to show up for him when society decides that he and people like him are going to be warehoused in jail. When you remember, there was this, oh man, I wish I had thought about it earlier. Y'all remember that New York Times article that came out and talked about there's a whole swath of ADOS men who are just missing. It's like they vanished and they're either dead or in jail.
And no one probably cares, unfortunately.
It's like they were taken by aliens, and we're not going to show up for that. We make excuses for that. Oh, they must have done something. You know, they should have got a job, and you can work at McDonald's or whatever. But we don't want to talk about that part. Let me just continue. Let me just continue with a little bit of this study. Imprisonment and the life course. It becomes a part of the life. In addition to increasing race and class inequalities in incarceration, mass imprisonment may mark a basic change in the character of young adulthood among low education Black men. From the life course perspective, prison represents a significant reordering of the pathway through adulthood that can have lifelong effects. Consequently, the prison boom, like other large-scale social events, affects a historically significant transformation of the character of adult life. This is I don't even know. And I hate charts that look like this, but this is the way the chart looks. But you got to pay attention. This is white men, and this is first prison incarceration. But look, you have to look to the right because that's point 4. You see, point 4, point 6, point 8. Now that's white men. Now I want to, if you want to know, it says if you want to understand what it is percentage of men admitted to prison for the first time. The solid line, percentage of men admitted to prison for the first time, and incarcerated is that broken line, blacks and whites. Now you see when you look at this, when you look at these lines for white men that goes all the way from 1970 to 2000, you see that's point 4, point 6, point 8. Now I want you to look at the right side of when we look at black men. It's not point anything. It's 2. It's look how it's just it's 2. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You see this is cataclysmic. This is cataclysmic. Percentage of non-Hispanic black and white men born 1965 to 1969 experiencing life events and surviving to 1999. I want you to look at black men, and I want you to look. White man is the first, and black man is the second row. Prison incarceration. Look.
But y'all asking us why we don't want to vote for the Democrat Party.
6% white men, 31.9% black men. Just, I want you to think about that and think about the context in which we're talking about showing up for people. The context in which we're talking about community. The context in which we're talking about who to protect. The context in which we are electing the architect of the crime bill to the highest. I mean, why? Understand, why in the world, let me take this down for 1 second. Why in the world would anybody think that ADOS men, after experiencing the brunt of this, having friends, if they didn't go to jail, they had people, somebody got locked up. What part of your mind says that man owes the Democratic Party anything?
We don't owe them shit.
Bringing him and nominating him to be the leader of the party tells them everything they need to know. We ain't even got to, honestly, like, do you even have to talk about anything else? Do you even have to have any kind of additional conversations? See, part of the problem is we don't understand what disadvantage looks like. There is some kind of thing that makes it like that ADOS men, that the masculinity and physical strength means that you can't be disadvantaged in this American life. That's a problem. Let me go to this next one. Because this is some horrific stuff. Now, this is another study. I just want to go. We're not gonna go. I just want to go through this real quick.
Oh, but we should just give our vote to the Democrat Party.
Quick. Declining employment among young black, less educated men, and the role of incarceration and child support. Now, here's the thing. Everybody knows if you have a baby, you absolutely, man, woman, you are both responsible for that child. Right? But there was a consequence I'll just let the study talk to you. So look at employment. We're talking about the percentage. We're talking about jobs, right? Employment population rates for males 16 to 24 years old, 1979 to 2000. I told you I'm just going to go back. I'm going to show you to say nothing new. So I want you to see the dates right there, right? Now, I'm going to bring it back so you can see both of them at the same time. Hispanic, black and brown, but look at the employment. I want you to look at remember this is employment population rates for males 16 to 24 years old. I want you to look at how the Hispanics are right up there close to, and how they eventually they be right there with the white folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get better and better every year. White is blue. That broken line at the bottom is black. So when you talk about men and you talk about jobs, that's what you're looking at. Now this stays, you have an uptick. It looks like in like 1989, and then it goes back down. And the one thing I want everybody, listen, here's what I don't want you to do. Don't get in your emotions about this. Like, I want you to get used to looking at things and not having looking at policies and just seeing the policy for a second and thinking about what that policy did before you say, well, well, they should have went to jail, or well, they got to get the child support. So if they can't, no, just look at the policies, because what we're talking about is outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
We all agree that the child needs to be taken care of. We all agree that nobody would, certainly not me, see a ADOS woman trying to take care of a child and somebody done scooted off and done started a whole new life somewhere, child. And she over there trying to take care of a kid, because that used to happen back in the day when you couldn't find nobody, child, he went for cigarettes and he left. So we all want the family, the kids to be taken care of, but we have to think about policy outcomes and think about how, like, stuff happens in our community, and the government society ain't gonna be no fix for it. We just, we get that. We ain't gonna be no.
Yeah, the government don't give a shit. They just want to leave it broken.
Fix for none of this. This is policy, because you can give people, just like we have to earn.
The only reason they're addressing this shit now is because now the white boys are starting to feel the same shit.
Income credit. There can be other credits too to kind of help subsidize certain things for low wage earners. I'm not talking about somebody who makes good money. We're talking about here low wage earners. So let's just continue right here. This is a very similar chart. But this hold on one second. Oh, the other one. This one we just did was ages 16 to 24. This is the one we just did. This one right here is ages 25 to 34. Looks very similar, right? Looks very similar. What you're seeing is you're not having better outcomes because you're older. Like, you are not seeing better outcomes. You're not seeing more employment, right? And so they get into, like, let's talk about some reasons why that might be. So the results show that employment and labor force participation rates among young white and Hispanics, less educated men, are fairly comparable with one another. So Hispanics and whites are doing about the same. This is years ago, and they're doing about the same. How will they, fam? Let me just say. Hold on a second. Let me just come out of this for a second, because I got a rant for just.
But you vote blue no matter who jackasses want us to give. Want black men to bow our heads, fall in line, and give our vote to the Democrat Party.
Just 1 second. How did we ever, when you look at that chart, let me come back to this chart. When you look at this chart, I'm gonna put it up in the corner. I'll put it up in the corner. When you look at both these charts. How in the world? See how? Wait a minute. Didn't the black line went below the thing? Look, when you look at these charts, how in the world? And you see Hispanic men tracking with white men. How do we ever come up with Hispanic and brown, Hispanic and black and brown, Hispanics and blacks? How do we ever come up with that? They tracking what they supposed to track, especially as people ain't been here longer than us. That means America is working for you. If America is working for you, your name don't never need to be beside my name. If America's working for you in a way that it certainly ain't working for me, Hispanic and black don't need to ever be beside each other in a sentence. Not ever. Not even in terms of none of that. Don't never need to be beside of nobody. Don't never need to be here. Why in the world? Like, what was the failure in our academic sphere that this was allowed to happen? There is no sameness here. You get to immigrate here at some point, and then.
Well, that's what you have. Well, unfortunately, Yvette, that's what happens when you let people like Bell Hooks, Kimberly Crenshaw, and Brittany Cooper run your show.
Still be with the white people. You are white. We get to be here 400 plus years, and we still stuck to the bottom. And that's where your men are right there. So let's go to some of the stuff they said about it. The results show that employment and labor force participation rates among, we saw this right there, are fairly comparable to one another. But these rates among comparable young black men have lagged behind those of the other two groups over the entire period. The entire period.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing, but brothers need to hear this.
Employment rates for all three groups show some cyclical movements, with decline in the early 1980s and 1990s for each. Cyclical movements in the labor force participation are less pronounced. It is just the most ridiculous thing. During the 1990s, employment rates among white and Hispanic young men stabilized after declining somewhat in the 1980s. These declines have been analyzed elsewhere and have been attributed to the declining real wages experienced by these groups. But the declines experienced by young blacks are greater during that decade than for other groups of men, and they continue during the 1990s. If anything, the decline in the labor force activity for black 16 to 24-year-olds is greater in the 1990s than the 1980s. Your life gets worse. So black men are watching their life get worse. Okay. Despite the stronger economy of the latter period and higher attainments. Now, hold on 1 second, of young blacks. Now, see, they said a good economy. So let me say something about that. So they said even with a good economy, these ADOS men did worse. They didn't get no better. So if that is the fact, a good economy and their outcomes were still trash, why should an ADOS man go somewhere and say, I'm going to vote for Biden because I care about the economy? Because that's what they say. You should vote for Biden because you care about the economy. What they know, let me tell you, a lot of what's happening with ADOS men is they are intuiting things that they can't necessarily explain, but they know it don't make no sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Things do not get better for them when the economy just does better. So if that is the life that you know, that things don't get better for me, and the data proves that things didn't get better when the economy was better. So just because there was a good economy and everybody said things were booming, with this group of men, life did not get better. So how in the world now can you expect to come to me and talk about something as general as the economy and expect me to say, okay, that's enough for me to vote for Biden? You have to come with something very specific. You have to now earn the vote of ADOS men, and you're not doing
precisely. You have to earn our vote. I'm just not going to give it to you. It's not going to happen.
Doing that. Well, you are.
Yeah, as the currently stands, Democrats have not earned my vote. You don't like it, go kick rocks.
Doing is diminishing them and ridiculing them, and people keep thinking that's gonna fly. I just don't see it happening. Let me go to another one real quick. With regard to child support, the growing establishment and enforcement of child support orders tends to raise the expected value of the order against non-custodial parents by raising the probability that any such order will have to be paid if one has regular earnings. Furthermore, these orders constitute a large tax on the earnings of the low-income non-custodial fathers. Child support orders for low-income non-custodial fathers are in the range of 20 to 25% of income. When combined with payroll taxes and phase out ranges for food stamps, the marginal tax rates on these men are often high as 60 to 80%. If non-custodial fathers are behind in their child support, states will garnish up to 65% of their take-home pay to cover their child support payments, which is the federal garnishment for debt purposes. So when you think about,
if you want to view this video later, you could do so. There's a link in the chat.
When you think about a policy outcome that may protect the child, and 65% of your wages and you are low income is a lot. So when you wonder why you're not in the labor force, what's the incentive of being in the labor force? So you may say, well, maybe the father gets access to a larger amount of food stamps and a larger amount of government help as long as he stays in with his child support. But what you were supposed to do, what this country was supposed to do when it found that low income men were being taxed at 65% sometimes for child support, the country was supposed to step in. You don't have to take nothing from the child. See, people give us false choice all the time. Well, if he got to pay it, or else the baby go without. No, we have other ways that we can help him help his child. Right? We have other ways that the government, we've always figured out, and we do it through the custodial parent has some things that they can get through the taxes when you file, stuff like that. Good stuff. You have to figure out a way to incentivize work. And if all the money from work is going here, that's great, but somebody got to eat. So what happens is you come out of the labor force, you find a different way.
Yeah, but here's what happened. When affirmative action happened, the job started supposed to go to black men, went to white women and went to a few black women who got the scraps that the white woman didn't get, which is why you have a lot of black women in middle management to keep the black men out. Y'all heard about that Amazon manager, that black woman who got arrested for stealing money from Jeff Bezos? Oops.
Policy is supposed to answer some of these questions. But the problem that we run into, the real crux of this whole thing, is that people have decided that the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, everybody has decided that ADOS men are not old policy prescriptions that help them. Right?
Sadly.
We will talk about, as we rightfully should. We should talk about ADOS women and maternal health care, and we should talk about how ADOS women have the worst outcomes, the third world outcomes in terms of childbirth and things like that. Those are things that we should fix. When we talk about ADOS men,
yeah, nobody want to talk about how you're more likely to be SA as a child if you live in a single mother home. Nobody wants to talk about how some of these single mothers keep it secret that you're being abused. Oh, but nobody. But nobody wants that. But they want to talk about all the stuff the black men are doing wrong.
And we don't talk about that. We don't talk about ways to fix their life. We don't talk about ways to improve their outcomes. We just started talking about mass incarceration, but that's only one thing. It's an extremely important thing that nobody dealt with. And so you have to talk about it. And the solution, even if you talk about mass incarceration, is not just letting them out. Because when you let them out, you're going to let them out into our community. They're going to be back in ADOS communities when you didn't give them no skills. You didn't give them no psychiatric care. They didn't get to go see a therapist. Like, what is it like to come out? Your child was 2 years old when you went into a cage, and he's 22 now and running up. He was like, Dad, when he went there, he ran up on you now. What's up, Paul? So if you...
Yep, she's not wrong about that. You don't believe me? Let me find a link for that. Go look at the Kurt Franklin Father's Day. I should have put that in the link. No, I should have, because Dr. T got here for that. But let me go find. Go look at Kurt Franklin's Father's Day video. This is a real problem in the black community, but nobody want to talk about it. But I will. 1 second. We're not going to view the video because I don't want to get copywritten for it. So, but you don't believe black community has issues, especially with fathers? Go look at Kurt Franklin's video. Just put it in the chat. But yeah, that has been pretty much my presentation for today. I wanted to talk about, the left versus vote blue no matter who, and I wanted to talk about how why the Democrats are losing black men. And Yvette gave you the numbers. She's an LGBT feminist, and she's telling you, and she's like, "What's black men's incentive to go vote for you?" But we still have vote blue no matter who knuckleheads that want to come and shame black men to go vote for a party that doesn't do shit for them. Yeah, they might do shit for you in your individual district, but you don't have any right to act like that's the whole country, bro. So that's all I have for you today. If you liked the presentation, hit the Cash App, support the show. But in meanwhile, I'm about to close out. This is AB Media 83, and I'm out. Peace. Yo, this is AB Media 83. Want to support the channel? Hit the Cash App. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the video. Also, be sure to hit that bell notification so you can be notified the next time I upload a live stream or video. And always remember, keep it grinding, keep it pushing, keep it moving. This is AB Media 83, and I'm out. Peace.